Good afternoon, everybody. Today it is May the 15th. It is 1 p.m. Eastern, and it is my absolute pleasure to bring to you the next installment of the Splinterlands Town Hall. I am Agrod. I'm the founder and CEO of Splinterlands. You'll be excited to know that in addition to some of our more common regulars, I'll be joined by the other founder of Splinterlands, a young, handsome man by the name of Matt Rosen. We get to go talk to NFTy Arcade today. Sadly, we don't have our creative director Nate, so we don't get to know all the fancy eye candy. We're gonna have to live without some of that coming up. But to get started, we're gonna go through. We're gonna talk to some of the people, get an idea of what's going on, what are we developing, why are we developing it, and also kind of like what's coming up on the short-term radar. What are we going to deploy? What are we building, and what can you guys expect? So to kickstart that, why don't we head over to the team group here, and we can go kind of give just like a quick heads up on who we are and what we're going to talk about. So I got in this order: Matt, Weirdbeard, Investigator, and Tyler. If you guys could just quickly share what it is that you're expecting to talk about on the show today.
Am I up?
You're up first.
Hey, everyone. I was going to talk about some of the stuff I've been working on from a design standpoint, mainly the replacing of collection power requirements with SPS staking requirements that we've discussed for a while, and also guild updates, I guess, are the two kind of big new things.
Sweet. Weirdbeard?
Here to hold down the fort, just giving updates on stuff that we've talked about in the past and what we're looking at in the next quarter.
Okay. Investigator?
I'm going to be talking about the update that's coming out tomorrow and general short-term updates.
And then lastly, Tyler.
Today, we're going to talk through some numbers with the NFTy Arcade, or excuse me, the Splinterlands sponsored decks on our platform. I have some cool stuff to show everybody.
Sweet. All right, fellas. Well, that's going to be the show today. So tune in as we're going through this. Let's go start with our special guest, Tyler. And then after that, we're going to do a quick release update with Investigator. And then we're going to dive into it all with Words with Wizards with our dear friend, Matt. But Tyler, you're our special guest. So we like to get our special guests in and out. Who are you? What are you doing? You talked about NFTy Arcade and Splinterlands decks and all this other stuff. Assuming that somebody has no idea who you are or what NFTy Arcade is, can you just give me like a quick 1-minute summary of your job and your company?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Tyler. It's been a little while since I've been on here. I'm Tyler with NFTy Arcade, CEO and founder of NFTy Arcade. We built what we call a reward share platform for Splinterlands, and it's a game agnostic platform. So in Splinterlands, what you can do is you can create a deck of cards, and then you can lend them out to a borrower for a reward share agreement. So that means that if I have a whole, bunch of Chaos Legion untamed cards, I can put them on the platform and then say, hey, I want to earn 50% of whoever plays with this deck, what they make with this deck. And that's what our platform does. And so recently, Splinterlands added some bronze level decks to facilitate the onboarding of new players. And I'm here to report on specifically how that's been going.
Okay. Now, just to clarify, do you claim to own those cards that we put up on your platform?
No.
Did we transfer ownership? No, we did not.
No.
So have you made an absolute fortune? Have you brought in millions of dollars because of these bronze decks?
That's a fantastic question. We have made so much money. $20 is what we've made since February. So I can now go on that vacation that my wife and I have been wanting. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is not, some people are going to be like, hey, you guys are here doing a money grab, or hey, why did you give all these cards to Nifty? There's it's not even FUD. It's just complete misinformation about how this works and why we're doing it. I don't know how to tell people this. In years of my life, we've been doing this for almost 5 years. So if after 5 years, someone were to tell me, just, you're going to spend 5 years doing this and it's still going to feel like the first inning, I don't know that I would have signed up for this, but that's where we are. It still feels like we're so freaking early in this. And NFTy Arcade is really one of the early partners in building this technology along with us that makes it easy for the borrowers and the lenders to go find each other so that sweet gameplay and sweet reward share can happen. Now, you said you had some numbers prepared. I know that the audience is, we're all a bunch of nerds here. We like numbers. So why don't you walk us through some of your initial findings? And I guess just high level, before you dive into the numbers, you want to give any flavor? Would you say this is the most successful thing you've ever done in your life? Has this been a total flop or failure? Do you regret ever having met me? Like, where does this fall in the grand scheme of things?
So that's a fantastic question. And to be totally honest, it has been, I would call it a marginal success. I think there's still some things that need to happen, but it was pretty difficult personally. I had a baby just recently at the same time that there was some issues with bots on the platform and was personally eviscerated. And so that was definitely a difficult situation to be in. Not something that you haven't experienced or Matt hasn't experienced, but character building. I very much believe in doing hard things, and I. The funny thing about that is when you look at what's been earned, $20 from that. Was it worth it monetarily? No, but is it worth the future that I believe in and what we're trying to build towards with the impact that we want to have? Absolutely.
All right, so let's walk into some of the numbers, and even if it's marginal, let's see. We're like coming to you live at what I think is the lowest price point for SPS in over a year now. It's like since the launch, which was last July, like two Julys ago. So this is probably the lowest point in 22 months. So certainly I would not describe this as pristine building conditions. But let's see what you got. Let's see where you are, and let's see what the numbers pan out.
Yeah.
And just for the record, I haven't seen these, so I don't know what's coming. This is as much of a anticipated and exciting number reveal for the audience as it will be for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited to share the data with you guys. So first, what we'll do is we'll walk through some of the quote unquote results of the experiment. Then we'll answer, kind of discuss some of the unanswered questions that there are that we still need to get data for, and then kind of discuss what the journey's been like. And then I'll finish with a summary. So it should be pretty quick. So this is the meaty page. So I'll walk you guys through this, and I apologize for the poor design. Usually I like to create a good deck, but I just really wanted this to be about the content. So here's what has gone on with NFTy Arcade, the Splinterlands sponsored deck specifically. So there are 682 bronze decks available on our platform. So as you guys remember, 500,000 Splinterlands packs Chaos Legion packs were reserved for the platform, but not all of those are being used. So there's 682 bronze decks available. No gold foils from any of these packs are in any of these decks. So no gold foils are available on the platform in any of these Splinterlands sponsored bronze decks. And the level distribution is level 4 commons, level 3 rares, level 2 epics, level 1 legendaries. So there are 682 of 4321 Splinterlands sponsored, right? And then the average deck value, so the average of these bronze decks, the average value of that deck is $320. So in total, there's roughly $220,000 in total value available for rent for new players on the platform. Now let's talk about, on average, how many of those are actually being played. So roughly 80 to 120 of those are being played on average at any given point in time, which is a utilization rate of roughly 15 to 20%. And we're at about $25,000 to $38,000 in total value actually being used. So very minimal. And I wanted to cover with everybody the actual amount of SPS that's been distributed to players since February. So if we remember, this experiment went live on February 10th, and roughly 7,800 SPS has been distributed to players using these decks. So about $190 worth of SPS has been distributed to players since this experiment was launched. So over 3 months, you could say about $60 to $70 of SPS is being earned by all of the accounts that are playing with these decks. So very little, because they get 50% of the rewards. Obviously, the DAO gets 50, and the DAO gets all the packs as well, all the packs earned from gameplay. So all they're getting are SPS rewards, and this is the total amount that has been distributed. Now, from what we can see from the data that we have, there's been about 150 to 200 new players outside of guilds onboarded into Splinterlands from just organic traffic, people telling each other about it. So, and we'll get into cost of user acquisition and all that. I'm excited to dive into at the end, but that's kind of where we are with the new players. We've partnered with 5 guilds. They're onboarding players. Still only one of the guilds has actually onboarded, and they've onboarded about 50 players. That's outside of the 150 to 200 new players. But these guilds are taking a long time to activate, unfortunately. So we just had a call with the Latin American version of Yield Guild called Hola GG, and they're very interested in onboarding their player base into the platform. Splinterlands isn't even one of the games they play, but when they saw our platform and they saw that their players can get involved and play for free and start at the very bottom, they were excited about that. And so we've got these interesting partnerships with guilds that are just taking a long time to activate. And then the last thing is we're still waiting on stats with some of the Splinterlands team to verify how many returning players we've actually onboarded. We have a lot of anecdotal evidence and we can make some estimations, but we don't know the exact number of returning players that we've been able to onboard. We're expecting 100 to 300 returning players as well. And we'll talk about the importance of returning players, but Agrod, I wanted to give you time to kind of, break down any of these numbers, ask questions, any questions here before I move on.
No, I mean, I can see why you're saying it's a little underwhelming, but like you said, it's also, there's all these different guilds or guilds, as you like to say. There's a whole bunch of them coming, and it just takes time. I mean, that's one of the things that's frustrating about all the things in crypto is that, like, it doesn't happen overnight. People are going to make decisions or start having opinions of what they want to see done with these cards. And one outcome could be we just burn the entire thing. To me, it sounds like we are off to a start. There's some development here. I don't know that we've really seen like the full utilization of these cards and see what they can do. I'd like to wait to see more of those guilds actually fully onboarded and fully moving. But I also think the cost of doing this is basically negligible, right?
Yes.
Like if you really think about the ratio to me is that if there's between 150 and 200 new players, then we as a community have spent basically $10 per player. And that, like, having these cards in these decks and ready to onboard, even if they're not being fully utilized, it doesn't really cost the community much. And then I don't know if you have data in the next slide, but of those 150, what are their activities since having done this? So
Yeah.
Are they here and they left? Are they here and they're cheerleading? Are they here and they're now Salt Lords and Mavs? Like where do these guys end up and what do they actually do?
Yeah, fantastic question. So this is oh, dang it. This is the second, I'll skip that one, but additional questions. So how many returning players? That's one of the big questions that we have here, and I'll get into why this is so important, but how many returning players we still need to ascertain. It's a little bit more difficult because you have to look at some parameters like, hey, how long had they been inactive? And then after they created an account on NFTy Arcade, when did they become active? So still looking at really drilling down on that data. But then we're also looking at following the activity over a 6-month period of these 250 to 400, what we expect to be 250 to 400 players lifetime value. How much are they spending in Splinterlands? Are they buying packs? What are they buying from Splinterlands? And then player to player activity. So what are they doing player to player? Are they renting? Are they buying on the player to player marketplace like Peak Monsters on our own site? So we're still waiting on that data. I think his name is Mark. The data analyst from Splinterlands has been on vacation, so for about a week and a half. So as soon as we have that data, I will absolutely create a Peak B post and present it. But this is kind of what we're still waiting on: how many returning players, and then following the activity of these players. But I will say that before this experiment, we had seen that a lot of our people who were borrowing were converting into paying players. And I'll go into this a little more with my next slide. So there's been a lot of studies in the gaming ecosystem about why returning players are actually so important. We talk a lot about new players in Splinterlands, but one thing that we have to recognize is there's been a lot of people that have cycled through the ecosystem. And one of the most important things we can do is try to bring those players back. Returning players are 10 times more likely to purchase than a new player. Free-to-play players who buy are likely to buy again, and then players who buy have a much higher retention rate. So that's something we're really excited about with our platform as well. And we are seeing returning players coming back and engaging in this behavior, but data is still forthcoming on specifically that and how many returning players.
Okay, other slides you want to present? That all seems pretty natural to me.
And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is people have been concerned about bots and whatnot. I wanted to bring this up as well. So these are kind of the rules of our platform. Players can only use a deck twice. So I, as a player, can use a Splinterlands sponsored deck twice, and then I'm prevented from being able to use it again. We're working with all 3 major bot providers to prevent them from using their token, using their service on our platform if they're borrowing a Splinterland sponsored deck. We're also doing token tracking, and we have a full-time guy in Madagascar reviewing data daily. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to fight bots, and so we literally have going through and reviewing data for us to make sure that we are putting as much as we can into this to make this. To share with you guys is this is what I think is super cool about this experiment.
Well, we lost you for a second. It sounds like our buddy Tyler dropped off. So we're gonna try to give him a second to hop back on. I guess I think he can hear me, so he can come back in a minute when he can actually get on here. My first thought is that it's not. I saw one comment of, no, this is not a negligible cost from Jimmy. These decks rented from Splinterlands could be decks rented from other players or cards rented from players via rental market. And that's true. But again, remember, we're not talking about a massive amount of money so far. We're talking about $190. So I don't, given that even at today's low SPS price, we're still seeing in the thousands of dollars per day. $190 since February is a pretty small amount. I mean, what is that? Maybe 16 weeks or something. February, March, April, May. So 4 months, 16-ish weeks. I mean, that's like $10 a week. I don't think that that's enough to go make a meaningful dent. And I mean that in both ways. Like, that's not enough that we're really driving players at this point, but it's also not a lot where we're like harming the community because all these cards are getting rented and that $10 should have been going to the players. $10 isn't a ton of money. And I feel like, at least my take on this, the community is welcome to have a different take on this. My take on this is that the players, I still want to give this thing time to keep moving, growing, having these decks be accessible. Let's see if these first 5 guilds, when they're actually fully onboarded, are driving more adoption, and we're seeing more sales and purchases by these folks. I mean, if we're not, then I don't have to defend this thing forever. I like Tyler and I like his project, but the numbers got to speak for themselves. But at the moment, to me, it feels like it doesn't really cost us anything. It doesn't really harm us, and we're still kind of getting the experiment in place to say, if these decks are truly utilized, what advantages can it bring us?
Hey, am I back, Ron?
All right, it looks like
Okay.
you're good to go here, Tyler. Glad to have you back.
Sorry, I apologize. So the last thing I was having some internet issues, I think, where I was. So the last thing I wanted to cover is it's absolutely what you said, Agro. At the end of the day, we're still seeing some small numbers, but the cost of acquisition and the actual impact on the ecosystem is negligible. One other thing I wanted to address is I looked at the impact on the rental market, the flat rate rental market, after this project went live, after we had some decks on there, and prices did not seem to be impacted at all by this, right? And we have, roughly 75 decks being rented out right now. And so these players are playing these for a small amount of time and then trying to move up. This is not necessarily impacting the rental market substantially either from what I'm seeing in the data as well. So really what I wanted to summarize here was cost of acquisition is incredibly low for new players. This is a low risk to the Splinterlands itself as a business and the community, because we're not seeing a huge impact on the rental market. We're not, it's $190 of SPS rewards have been distributed over a 3-month period to hundreds of different players. So very, very, very minimal. And this is a long-term acquisition. Can continually bring in new players for an incredibly, incredibly low cost.
Yeah, that to me is the heart of this. Is like, we haven't gotten to the full exploitation of this or the full usefulness of this system, or it doesn't look like it's reached peak efficiency. So when it does reach peak efficiency and we can see what kind of impact does it have, okay. Until then, it sounds like you got some more salesmanship doing where we got to bring in more guilds and actually get those guilds onboarded. And then once we get those guilds onboarded and see, does this make a dent? Do they come? Do they leave? What's their behavior? And is that behavior beneficial or harmful to the ecosystem? Right now it seems like it's kind of poking along. And a lot of that I just feel like isn't stuff that's necessarily in your hands. It's hard to get people excited about earning 2-cent SBS and you're going to earn 10 to 20 of them or something over the course of whatever. It's a uphill battle to get people to appreciate this thing when we're in the doldrums of price. So, here's hoping that in the not too distant future that SBS is higher and it makes it easier to find people that are excited about these teams and packs. And I agree. There's no data that I've seen yet that makes me think, oh, what we're doing is hurting the rest of the community. This really feels to me like, if a player wasn't renting one of these decks, I'm not sure that I believe they'd be renting individual cards. Like this is going a different route than that.
Right.
So I don't know. It seems additive, seems smallly additive, and hopefully in better market conditions, this thing will be a bigger player than it has been thus far. Any thoughts on your kind of next steps to grow the platform, grow the number of people utilizing this system?
Yeah, so we're in discussions with Weirdbeard and a few others trying to figure out how we can have a little bit more of a handshake. And one thing I also want to add is all of this is without actually being on the homepage at Splinterlands. All of this is kind of our market making from acquiring players and getting guilds on. So this isn't, no traffic is coming from Splinterlands, the website itself. This is kind of everything that we've been doing, working with guilds and having our own players bring in friends and family and organic referrals. So I think there's still a lot that we can do into the future, especially when we actually get one of these really big guilds able to start onboarding, taking a little bit of time. There's a few optimizations that we have to make technically to make it easy for them to onboard their players into the platform. So there's still a little bit of work for us to do, but we're really excited about the future.
Sweet. All right. Tyler, I appreciate your time. Thanks for hopping on. Let's get you in, let's give it another couple of weeks and get you back and see how the experiment continues to roll on. I appreciate you being here and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your time, guys.
Yep. I think up next we got Investigator. So, Investigator, hopefully you can tell us what's on the docket for tomorrow.
Hello. Yeah. So we've got a smaller update in terms of the number of things going out, but a few big items. One of the biggest things going out tomorrow is we are adding an account security page in the kind of drop down for where your profile and settings would be.
And what kind of things are we covering in the account security page?
So we're going to add the ability to change your email with Active Key, or add an email if you haven't set one on your account, if you made it through Hive directly. Things like requesting your keys and changing your password are going to be moved into there. So basically anything dealing with account security. So it's going to be a tech modernization page. And the real new feature is giving users the ability to change their email without having to contact support, which is something that support asked for quite some time ago.
A little bit ago. We'll go with a little bit ago.
Yeah. So that's kind of a big update in terms of functionality that we're giving to the users. In terms of gameplay, we did a cleanup of Resurrection and Rebirth. So they will now properly clear Affliction, Blind, Cripple, Having, Poison, Snare, Weaken, and Recharge will also be reset on Resurrection. So some of those things were previously not being cleared if a monster died and got resurrected, and now they should. The last big item for tomorrow is a update to the markets. So on the pages where you actually see the list of cards, we are going to be using a new API endpoint that returns much less data than the old one. So instead of getting all the cards all the time, you will only get back the actual cards that are being displayed, which is the 1,000 based off your sorting options. So either the 1,000 lowest BCX, highest BCX, lowest price, highest price, depending on what sorting option you're using, which should cut down on people's lag in using the market, hopefully, and also cut down on data costs of transferring stuff back and forth.
Yeah,
Part
it's
of
amazing. It's hilarious that it's been like 5 years that we've been doing this. Of like, you would like to know the price of a card? That's fine. Let me tell you the price of all the cards. That seems to be an expensive way to do it. So I'm looking forward to this. I think it'll help what's called our egress, and we can stop giving as much money to Amazon as a result of this.
Yeah, that is the hope. And also, we're going to try to replace the code that does the card listings and totals at the top. So we can basically get rid of the multi-layered caching system we've been using for the market. And it should let us get rid of a whole bunch of things we've been paying for, and probably make it more performant at this point, just because it's become such a confusing mess of systems on top of systems to run the market. But we're going to do some testing with that over the next week or two and hopefully get that out soon. There is a bunch of stuff going on with Land 1.5. I don't think we're putting any of it out tomorrow, but I'll have to talk with Farpatrad and see if any of his stuff is going. I know he wants to try to get some of the blockchain ops out soon. And yeah, those are the main highlights for what's going out tomorrow.
And it seems like that it doesn't sound that bad from a release note. So it's sort of a short downtime again, and hopefully not too much that's happening here in this coming, I guess, tomorrow.
We'll see. I don't want to promise too much. We do have some server updates to run that are just kind of outside the scope of the game code, but some of the like operating system updates kind of want to apply across a couple machines, and that may take a little bit, but hopefully it won't be a very long downtime.
Yeah, some of the stuff that we're doing right now is not terribly sexy. Some of it is this back end codes and trying to make it so that we can get more performative and make it so that it's less expensive, faster, but also set us up for scaling in the future. And I know that that's players want features. They don't necessarily want back end stuff. But I'll tell you, before you can get those features, you have to get these back end components in place. And hopefully that makes it easier in the future for us to deploy and make it easier for us to do all that. So I think that's a good enough upgrade or update for now. Thanks, Investigator. Any last comment that you wanted to share there? I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's fine. I did want to touch on one thing from a couple weeks ago. Since support really isn't on here, we are also making pretty good progress in returning cards from the Wax Bridge from failed transactions, mainly from 2021, as we have started to do a big audit of everything, and we handed off all of the info to the support team, and they've been making their way through and returning cards back to people. And hopefully some of the people listening have gotten some of the stuff back if they were big users of the Wax Bridge and Atomic Market.
Yeah. So if you guys used to be using that, or you're doing it constantly or whatever, go check your accounts. I think on the Splinterlands side mostly, right?
Yeah,
like
we're turning them back on the Splinterland side.
Yeah, but go check it out, because you guys should be getting a whole bunch of cards. If some of the transactions you had done earlier failed, you might not have noticed, and now we're returning them to you after a little bit that they've sat in limbo. All right. Well, Investigator, thanks so much. Thanks for kind of staying on top of the audit, and thanks for helping us to get servers that can function and operate this whole game and have stuff to build on top of. Let's call it there for now. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, our next guest is the only Matt Rosen. We're going to go do some Words with Wizards. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Hey, doing good.
So this is sort of like every month we try to get Matt back on. This one is not the we're not like about to lay everything down. We're like it kind of in the middle of like a fair number of projects that both need design and kind of what we're doing in the future. So I feel like this is it's not the most hectic piece for the design team and for the what we're kind of cranking out next. But I do know that there's a fair number of things that we're working on. I think the agenda today is SBS staking, some guilds, and maybe we'll touch on a little bit of land. Is there anything else that you feel like you want to add into that?
I mean, those are the main ones. So if, maybe at the questions point, if people want to hear about other things, we can get into it.
Okay. So SBS staking. So right now we have this thing called collection power. It's a little bit convoluted and a little bit noisy for us to be running. And it sounds like we want to move that more in line with the overall objective of the game, which involves a lot more SBS staking. And so we're going to go from this thing called collection power to this thing called SBS staking. And it's sort of like the first step of how we're integrating SBS directly into the reward mechanism of the game. What kind of details? I know that people have been saying forever, when is the plan? How much is it going to cost me? How much do I need to use? Any kind of high level stuff that you're prepared to share with us for how that might work, and then also when you think that might go in.
Yep, we have like the main designs and the formulas and everything ready to go, so I can share that with everybody here today, with the usual caveat that nothing is set in stone until it's live. And even once it's live, obviously if there are any issues, we'll continue to update it. So it's just one of those things I want to mention, because I feel like the community always has this feeling like if something happens that means that's it and it's never going to change. This, like everything else, is an experiment. We're going to do our best to set some reasonable targets, and we'll go from there. We'll see how it goes. So at a high level, like Aggie mentioned, collection power did its job for a while, but it's a bit clunky. Obviously there's a lot of like exploits and weird things around it, and from like the back end perspective, it's a big pain in the butt and had a lot of bugs of just, we have to constantly keep track of everybody's collection power all the time as all cards are moving and renting and throughout the system. So ultimately, now that we have the SPS token, staked SPS is really the main thing that should determine your rewards. Basically, if you want to get more SPS from battling, yeah, obviously you need the cards that you need to win your matches, but you're also going to need to show you're invested into the system via staking your SPS. So the plan is to just get rid of collection power, at least initially, for league requirements. It'll still be, I think, in the game for now for things. I don't know if it's still used on tournaments and stuff like that, but ultimately, I would like to get rid of it completely, but for now, we're just going to be removing it as a requirement to get into each league and replacing it with a staked SPS requirement. So the plan is not just to have a set amount, like you need 1,000 staked SPS to get into this league and more to get in the next league. We kind of looked at that, and it's a little clunky and not ideal, because people will just get whatever the minimum amount of SPS they need to get into whatever league, and then not be generally encouraged to get more. We want to make it a situation where everyone's always benefits from getting more SPS at any league.
So let me summarize that back to you. It sounds like there's not one specific number. It sounds like there's a range. And so if I stake more, I'll earn more in that range. And if I stake less, I'll earn less within that range. But it doesn't sound like it's one specific number. It sounds like there's a range.
That's the plan. And it'll be based on a formula, and the formula is going to be based on your rating. So it also won't be a situation like as soon as you tick up from silver 1 to gold 3, for example, that now the requirements jump a whole lot, which would potentially encourage some people to want to stay in Silver 3. Another thing I always try to encourage is that people should always want to move up to higher leagues. It should always be beneficial. I don't want it to be a situation where people like don't want to move up. So basically, the idea is that it's sort of like the R shares calculation, how your reward shares from battle increases uh, with your rating or decreases with your rating. The SPS requirements are going to do the same. So as you move up in rating, the amount of SPS you will need will slowly increase along with your rating. And the idea is hopefully that players are also earning SPS as they're playing, so they're kind of keeping steady. But the goal is, so it's not that there's a requirement. There's no requirements anymore. Anyone can play at any league. They could play with one card if they can manage to win battles with one card. It's just that the amount of their earnings, the amount of reward shares they're going to get, which is going to affect their SPS earnings, loot chests, everything will be adjusted based on how much SPS they have. So there'll be a certain level where if you have that amount of staked SPS, you'll get roughly the same amount of reward shares you would have gotten under the previous system. If you had less than that, you'll be getting less. And if you have more than that, you also have the opportunity to earn even a little more. And it's going to be, it has a diminishing returns formula. So it's not like someone with, 1 million SPS staked playing in Silver League is going to get ridiculous amounts of reward shares. It's going to be a curve that goes up and then levels off. So at a certain point, it's not going to be all that beneficial at lower leagues to keep staking SPS as far as rewards go, but it will always increase it by a little bit.
Can you? So one thing I haven't heard is like, how does this impact a brand new player? Right. So like, yeah, so much about blockchain is always at the edge cases and how that kind of impacts people. So like, if I'm a brand new player and there's some SPS staking requirement, does that make my new player experience horrific because I don't know how to handle SPS? Is it an opportunity? Does it matter much when I'm just a novice or bronze? Like how does the SPS staking requirement work for the beginning players?
Well, so the first thing is it's not going to be a requirement, right? So players will be able to come and play and get to whatever league they get to, and they don't even need to have any staked SPS, and there will still be some minimum level of rewards, which will be small. But the goal is to, as always, make it, for new players, they will need to get cards, and they should also now need to get staked SPS. They won't need to necessarily buy SPS and stake it themselves. We also now have SPS delegation in the game, and we hope to have SPS delegation markets. So it'll be very easy to say, like, just rent SPS for a season or for a month or whatever it is. But that's, just generally all part of the new player experience is to encourage them not only to get more cards, whether owning or renting, but also to get more SPS in order to maximize their rewards. But the key is that it's not required in the same way that collection power, like it's not going to stop them from moving up.
So do you have any so now I'm shifting away from that new player because it sounds like it's not a requirement. It will help me earn more and earn faster, but I'm not forced to do it. What about like, my silver player or gold player that's hanging out and they want to go increase their rewards? How do they know how much more SPS to get? Like, is there a chart? Is there a figure? Is there a graph? And then, how do we make it easy for a player to interpret? Like I know that in general you're saying, hey, the more you stake, the better it'll be, but can we get into some more specifics of what that's starting to look like?
Yeah, I mean, I can share, I'll share numbers that I put together with the current formula for like each league and each tier rating, the amount of staked SPS we're looking at to keep your reward level the same as it is currently. And as far as the user interface, that's part of what Creative is working on. But our plan is to replace the collection power bar with the staked SPS bar, so they'll be able to see. And we want to show it in the user interface as not like you're getting any type of penalty or something, but it's basically there's like a base amount of earnings, reward shares that you get, and then as you stake more SPS, you basically get a multiplier on your earnings. So it's always just, you know, for new players, it'll just be like this base very low amount, and then you can stake more SPS to get a multiplier. And we want to show like kind of a progress bar that shows the different multipliers they can achieve. You know, maybe a chart or something with how much SPS they need to achieve it, and then that'll adjust automatically as they move up or move down in rating. You know, it'll show, okay, you moved up in rating now, so instead of a 10x multiplier, you're down to like 9.9, unless you know, stake this much more SPS to get back up to 10x. So yeah, that really comes down to the creative team, but I think we can display it like generally pretty simply with a bar that shows, you know, you're at this level and like you can get all the way up to this level.
Yeah. Do you want to share some specifics so that it's easier to kind of talk about it?
Yeah, I'll share it. Let me see if I can upload it in the chat here. This is just from a spreadsheet, so we can, I don't know if we want to pin this or whatever.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
So this is basically the formula for the amount of staked SPS you would need to keep your like reward shares level at the same exact amount it is right now. Now, obviously, you know, some people have less, some people have more. Our goal is we didn't want to make these numbers where everyone pretty much already has the amount, right? The goal is to have people encouraged to get more, whether it's buying it or whether it's renting it via delegation. But these are kind of the numbers that we're looking at, and we looked at the averages of what every, you know, players in every league had. Although it's a pretty wide range to kind of make it. And we looked at, you know, dollar costs based on the current prices. Now, obviously, in the future, our hope is that, you know, SPS may be much, much more expensive. And in that case, you know, these things can always be readjusted if necessary. But this is what we're thinking currently.
So how did you get to this? So first off, I'm looking at the leagues, and I think everybody's familiar with the different leagues. I'm in bronze or silver or gold. The minimum rating, so that's their ranked rating, right? That's just like anybody that needs to achieve gold 3 needs to get to a rating of 1900. That's not new or changed in any way, right?
Right. Those are the current minimum ratings for each of those league tiers.
And then, so tell me a little bit more of where you got to like the SPS, you know, the staked SPS requirement. How did you gather these numbers? And like, so I'm looking at gold 3 at 21,000. Some players are going to say that's too high. Some are going to say that's too low. And you're also showing me one number, right? And you just said that like, well, it's actually a range. So this is to be clear, when I'm looking at gold 3 and it says 21,000, I need 21,000 to get the exact same amount of SPS or R shares that I've been earning currently. If I increase beyond 21,000, do I start getting more reward shares? And if I'm below that 21,301, do I start getting less? Can you kind of give some color and flavor to this chart?
Yeah. So it's definitely like that is the number that just keeps you at the same amount of R shares, right? If you have less SPS, like nothing bad happens, your just R shares will be lower. It doesn't mean you can't play in that league or anything. And if you have more SPS, you'll be able to earn more R shares even than you were earning previously. Again, with diminishing returns. So the formula is very similar to the one in the SPS white paper that talks about this, where it's you know, staked SPS divided by staked SPS plus a constant, right? So that approaches 1 but never reaches it. So, you know, we can also release if I have some more time later, we can show some like graphs of the curve and how it will look if you have more or less SPS staked than in that chart. But that's generally how it will work. And how we came up with it, again, like I looked at the average amount of staked SPS that players had in each league, in each tier, modern and wild and all that stuff. And we, again, wanted to target it, you know, we like adjusted the formula so that it would push people to get more SPS than they currently have. Again, we didn't want to just say, okay, everyone, here's the level of SPS that generally everybody has, and that's what you need done. We do want to encourage people to attempt to get more. And then so we just kind of adjusted the curve and the numbers and things until it looked like a reasonable request for increase based on the averages, and reasonable dollar costs also based on current pricing.
So one of these questions, so Tog is in here saying, you said it's based on rating, but not league level, but the spreadsheet is based on league level. This is just like,
Well,
you
no,
know,
so the spreadsheet is
handles.
based on rating. I just can't show every single rating from 0 to 5,000. So I just broke it out at
These
the
are
minimum ratings
samples.
for each league level.
Yeah,
But
these
yes,
are sample
if you go
ratings.
from 1,000 rating to 1,100 rating, it would need a little more SPS staked in order to stay at that same level of reward shares. So it's a smooth curve that will increase or decrease with every single point of rating.
So if I don't have this, so let's see, if I don't have enough, I guess my two options are, I guess I have three options. One, I can just be content earning less. Two, I can buy some SBS and stake it. Or three, I can get a delegation of SPS so that I have as much as I would like or more. Have I summarized that correctly?
Yeah, I think so.
And then, do we have a mechanism by which there's like an SBS delegation rental market? Like I know that we have like a delegated authority for like renting cards. Is there something like delegated authority for renting SBS?
Well,
Or
that's
like,
also part of what we plan to build. So we would like, obviously, for there to be rental markets for SBS delegation. I mean, maybe it'll initially just be on Peak Monsters or other things, and maybe we can make it available within the game website. But yeah, we want to make it as easy as possible for people to just rent the stake they need if they don't want to buy
so
the
that's like a posting key authority, right? Like, one of the players wants to go rent SBS from me. The market has that authority to rent it, but they wouldn't have the authority to like literally transfer SBS out of my account and give it to a different account. They just have the authority to like rent it for a period of time.
Yeah, the same thing as the current rental market authority,
but just applied to SBS for delegations.
Yep.
Now some people seem like they think it's too low, and other people seem to think that it's too high. What made you think, more than anything, what made you think that this is the right levels? This is the right curve. This is the amount. Is it basically just making sure it's a stretch for every single player at those different areas, or what impacted that the most?
I mean, like I said, we want players to be encouraged to get more than they currently have. We'll see how it goes. I mean, nothing's set in stone, but that's kind of the whole point of this is, in order to come in and get rewards from the game, you need to, stake your tokens into the game.
Yeah, I guess one of the comments is that this is lower than the tournament requirements. So some of the players seem like, hey, the tournament requirements are lower than this, and now the SBS requirements here are higher. Any thoughts on that? Should we be only using the SPS tournament requirement system, or should we be doing, like, is the ranked reward different enough that it needs its own system? Just what are your thoughts comparing SBS in tournaments and SBS in ranked?
I mean, I haven't really looked at the tournament system. I know Weirdbeard works on that. I don't really work on that system. So I was just going off of, I didn't look at the tournament stuff. So I don't really know what the levels are there. And I haven't spent any time looking at that.
And then, so Kozrock has actually been kind enough to go share it from the original white paper. So he's got we put in the white paper something like a rating of 4,000 might need 600,000 staked SPS. So relative to where we put it in the white paper, it seems like it's actually smaller for the requirements than we even put in the white paper.
Yes, the white paper were example numbers, obviously, and things have changed a lot in 2 years. But yeah, I don't personally think they're like all that out of whack, right? If you want to be a part of this and earn, real value rewards, you kind of have to stake into the system. It's not asking people to spend, right? They're not spending the tokens, so they don't have it anymore. They're staking them. If obviously they believe in the future of the system, that could be a fantastic investment for them. If not, it may not be, but that's all part of what's required here. And I say this a lot, like this type of thing isn't for everyone. It's not a free to play game. um so this is the kind of thing that I personally am looking for, is like, if you want to be in an ecosystem and you believe in it and you want to earn the rewards of that ecosystem, you also have to, you know put stake, put your, I don't know what the word is, but put your value into the ecosystem and keep it there. Like, you have to be part of it, creating the value for everybody.
So Jimmy went ahead and put together a chart and shows sort of this, like, it's not a linear curve, it's an exponential curve.
Yep.
And it seems to remind me some of like the rewards curve itself, right? Like the higher rank you are, the more earning potential you have. It also seems like the higher rank you are, the more SBS staking requirements you have. Does that seem correct to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's on purpose. It's very similar to the rewards curve, right? Because you want the requirements to match the rewards, roughly.
All right. So we have this has certainly created a whole bunch of the people that don't have enough SPS are certainly seem like they're concerned. Other people that have more SPS seem like they're delighted. I guess any kind of high level thoughts that I want to move on to guilds, but do you have any kind of high level thoughts that you'd like to share with the players regarding why is this a good system? Not just how does it work, but let's end on what is the biggest benefit of this, and why is this going to help the community, the economy, and the overall ecosystem here?
Yeah, I guess two things. I mean, one, everyone initially just looks at, current dollar price of SPS and whatever, and does a bunch of math. One thing we will have to see is ultimately what rental prices for SPS look like. It may turn out that the SPS required for whatever league can be very, very cheap. Just like in many cases, the cards required to play in a lot of leagues are very, very cheap from a rental standpoint. So, that's one of the things I also keep in mind, and we'll have to see ultimately how it goes. But this has been the vision of the white paper since SPS is released, right? So I would hope that very much that this is not a surprise to anyone. And this is a big part of, like, a lot of the demand and the necessity for SPS has not been implemented even almost 2 years later. This is the main thing. This is the main reason why people should and hopefully will want to get the SPS token. It's like it's the sort of the gas token in a way of Splinterlands, right? You spend ETH on gas to pay for Ethereum transactions. You need to stake Hive to do Hive transactions. Here, rather than needing it to do specific transactions, we want this to be less transactional and more game related. You need to stake it in order to earn the rewards. And that's going to be a huge part of where the value of the SPS token was originally designed, and how it evolves in the future. Is if you want to participate in this game and you want to earn from it, you also have to contribute to it. And this is the method that you do that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. This is SPS needs utility, and SPS, if it is the governance system, but it's also the driving force for the reward system. And it makes total sense to me that if you want to be earning SPS in this ecosystem, you also have to be staking SPS. And when everybody in this ecosystem has to be staking SPS to maximize their rewards, and by the way, there's not enough for everybody to go stake and get maximum rewards, right? Like, doesn't this sets it up to be fairly competitive, right? Like, if there's if you need, what was it, 413,000, and there's something like 500 million that have been staked, there you can start seeing that there's a maximum number of people that can earn the sort of like standard rewards or best rewards. There's not enough for everybody. This now gets pretty damn competitive. Whereas it was sort of a nice to have previously. Now it is, in order for you to go maximize what you're doing, this is what you need to do. And I guess there's one last question that I want to ask before going on. Some people are saying, I saw one quote, and I see these kind of things a lot, and it gets me a little triggered. So I'm going to ask you to answer this rather than me, so I don't start swearing at people. But what about there was a comment of, this is a giant money grab. This is a money grab made by Splinterlands. By requiring SPS to be staked, is there any money that will in any way, shape, or form be directly deposited to Splinterlands because other players now have staking requirements?
Well, no, clearly, no money is paid to us in any way for this. Now, obviously, we benefit alongside everybody being large holders of SPS. But yeah, that's always a funny comment to me. I mean, there's definitely been cases in the past where we have done things because to get money for the company, right? And we're going to continue to do that because we do need money for the company. What qualifies as a money grab versus just a company selling products, is up to each player. But this is very different in the sense that the SPS token ecosystem is a DAO, right? Where all the players who have SPS are effectively the owners. And this is just part of setting up the utility for that token in a way that it benefits all of the token owners, right? So you guys, if this is a money grab in some way, then the SPS holders are the beneficiaries of it. In which case the Splinterlands company isn't even the largest SPS holder, I don't believe. So yeah, I don't know. Those comments always strike me as funny, in the sense that it's not a money grab in any way by Splinterlands, the company. We benefit alongside everybody as members of the DAO and holders of the SPS token. But ultimately, it's the type of thing where the SPS rewards, at least, there's a separation between the SPS, right, completely controlled by the DAO, and the DAO can vote and say, hey, we don't want SPS to be given out in this game anymore, if they want, right? The token holders can vote and do whatever they want with the distribution of SPS tokens. Separately, the Splinterlands company runs the game. And we could also say, we don't care about SPS. Okay, we're going to give it out as rewards because the DAO allows us to, which is the case. The DAO allows us to give it out as rewards. But we find this a symbiotic relationship. So we're like, okay, well, that's great. The DAO allows us to give out SPS as rewards, but we don't want to just give it out for people who buy things from us, the cards. People should also have to contribute to the DAO by holding and staking SPS in order to get those rewards. So that's how it doesn't benefit us, right? It just benefits the SPS, us being the Splinterlands organization. It benefits the SPS community in this case. And if the SPS community also doesn't like it, I mean, that's what we have the proposal system for. So anyone, you can yell and scream all you want in Discord, but we have a very set system where you can say, hey, I don't like this. Here's how I think it would be better. Go make a proposal, and if that's what the SPS community wants, we would in no way go against that, right? Especially when it comes down to the SPS token specifically. So I would very much encourage that, and I find it very hollow, the people who just say things in Discord constantly but won't go and submit a proposal. And I know there's a fee for submitting a proposal, but I think it's relatively modest in the sense of the importance certain people seem to place on these things. If it's that important to you as for the future of the game, you could even get together with a bunch of people and raise the $80 worth of DEC to go submit a proposal. And I think that's what's really exciting to me about the proposal system is it gives everyone in the community a way to kind of express their ideas and for the community to vote on it without just having to try to like convince us one way or the other in Discord.
So you talked about a proposal. So what are the next steps for the SBS staking? So for us to get rid of CP and get into SBS staking, what are the steps, and do you have like a timeline of what you're thinking for that?
I don't have an exact timeline because I don't know. We have a lot of things that our developers are working on, but it's not too far in the future. I mean, it's definitely this quarter because it's not like that big of a project, as our projects go.
But so are we just implementing this because it's roughly in line with the white paper? Is this a DAO vote? Like, what's the actual process for um, turning CP requirements into SBS staking requirements?
I mean, this is something that we are planning on implementing. Again, like it's it's not fully what was announced in the white paper that everyone sort of implicitly buys into when they participate in the SPS ecosystem, but it's on its way there. I would like to eventually get to the full implementation in the white paper, which I think is really cool, but this is a good step in the right direction. So it's going in the direction of the white paper that's already been published. We're planning to do it, and if the community doesn't like it, that's where the proposal system is available to let us know.
Okay, so we don't need when do you know when you're planning on getting the full so that was like one piece of a spreadsheet that we shared. When do you expect like a full white paper on this to go?
It'll be a post, if is considered a full white paper, and we'll update the SPS white paper to put in this information. I'm not sure. I would like to say within the next few weeks or something, this should all be buttoned up and ready to publish a post on.
Sweet. Okay, well, that's one of the two things we want to talk about. The second one is guilds. Do you want to go share what your plan is for guilds?
Yep. Just switching over. So we've talked about this a bunch of times before at a higher level. So I'll get into a little more detail. We were initially looking at a big guild alliances update, but for the sake of getting things out more quickly and with the resources we have, we're going to start with just an upgrade to the existing guild system. The biggest and major change that we're doing is allowing people essentially to take their guild contributions with them when they leave a guild and apply it to another guild. So right now, if you burn a whole bunch of DEC in order to upgrade your guild buildings, if you were to leave that guild or get kicked out of the guild, that's all gone. And that I think is a big deterrent for a lot of people to burn DEC into the guild buildings. So the plan is to implement what we're calling guild points. So basically you'll still be burning DEC or DECB to upgrade guild buildings in the same way, but you'll earn a guild point basically for every DEC or DECB you burn to do that. And then when you leave a guild, you'll take 90% of those guild points with you. And that means the building, will also lose 90% of the points that were given to it. So it'll be, for guilds, they'll have to think twice before they just kick out people who have donated a lot, because they'll need to basically replenish those guild points to get their guild buildings back up to their level. And then similarly, if you're kicked out of a guild, you can take, it's not 100%. So there is still some loss there that stays in the guild, but 90% of it you can take to another guild and you can apply it back to buildings in that guild. So hopefully it will give people a lot more confidence in putting DEC and DECB into their guilds, because they get something as part of their account that they can utilize. It can make them more valuable to other guilds in the future, and they don't have to worry about getting kicked out of a guild as much. So that's like kind of the main change, which I think is great. And then on top of that, we are going to be adding a few new guild buildings that will require these guild points, which you burn DEC and DECB, just like all the other guild buildings that exist. And they'll also require additional assets to be staked. So it's sort of like how the brawl buildings require DEC and crowns. These other buildings might require DEC and unopened booster packs to be staked. That, you know, DEC and vouchers, DEC and SPS staked that can be applied. And similarly, these are just staked items that can be taken with you at any time or when you leave the guild. So you're just applying the staked items to the guild, and it just encourages people to hold and kind of lock up more assets in order to get the various guild bonuses.
So for the,
go ahead.
you said we're doing guild points. So if I stake DEC or DECB into a guild building and then I leave or I'm kicked out of the guild, I'll get 90% back. What about the vouchers or the packs that you just mentioned? Would I get 90% of those back, or do I get 100% of the DEC plus something else?
No,
What
those
gets
things,
returned?
those things you would be staking into the guild, and you could unstake them at any time. There'll probably be like an unstaking period, like with, you know, delegating SPS or something. But you know, so if you're in a guild and you stake some packs to the guild building to level it up, you could just unstake those at any time from the guild if you wanted to open the packs or whatever. So that would be kind of separate and different from guild points.
Okay. So so we're going to introduce some different guild buildings, and they're going to have some of these separate costs. What advantages are we providing to players to go and why would I want these buildings? What do they do for me?
Well, first of all, we're planning to get rid of the Quest Lodge and integrate those two rewards into two of these other buildings. Right now, the Quest Lodge, it doesn't really work or kind of make sense. You just get it for doing your focuses, but you kind of automatically do them if you just play every day. So we'll be moving the shop discount and the reward point bonus into some of these other buildings that will require more assets to be staked in order to get those bonuses. Some other things we're looking at are like crown boosts to boost the number of crowns you get from guild brawls, and maybe a couple of other things. And then one other kind of big part of this that I wanted to talk about is kind of a revamp of the whole guild like leaderboard thing. Right now, the leaderboard is just a sum of all the
Rank
rank
or the
of
rating?
everybody in the guild, which is good. I mean, obviously, a guild with higher ranked players, you know, could be considered higher rank than guilds with lower ranked players. But we want to like make that a much more interesting system where we'll have a guild score metric, which will be comprised of a bunch of different things, like the total amount of guild points that are contributed. It will include also the rankings of the guild members, sorry, the ratings of the guild members as part of it. It might include things like crowns, total crowns that have been earned by the guild in brawls, and things like that will all be kind of summed up together with different multipliers, right? You know, some things will be worth more than others into the into this guild score, and that's how we're gonna, you know, rank all the guilds. And then, as you know, rather than just being a cosmetic ranking, I guess there's actually going to be benefits that we're planning for guilds the higher their rank. So there will be cosmetic benefits, like possibly you know, cooler guild banner styles, you know, so you can easily tell if you look, you know, if you're playing against someone and you see their guild banner and it's like a really cool style, like, oh, they're in one of the top 10 guilds. And then there'll be actual like leaderboard rewards, and it might be, we're looking at it being season based. So at the end of a season, you know, you open your season rewards, you'll also be able to open your guild rewards, and the higher your rank in your guild, you might get rewards like merits. You could get blood and power stones, you know, even if you don't have a high enough store for them, you may be able to get some as rewards. You may be able to get additional loot chests, just like regular you know, focus or season loot chests, but you could get more as guild rewards. And we're coming up with a few other things. So our goal is that guilds will try to be very competitive in order to try to get to the top of the leaderboard rankings, or as high as they can.
So my brain is telling me to scale out or like zoom out for just a second, because somebody also just said I don't understand why he said nerfing, but he said, why are we doing this to SBS? And to me, it feels like we are applying a similar concept in every part of this game, which is if you want to earn and you want to earn faster and better than everybody else, you need to be competitively staking. In land, we are saying you need to be competitively, you have to own land, and owning higher quality land is better, but then you have to stake SPS and monsters. In the SPS staking for ranked rewards, we're saying, oh, you'd like to earn SPS. That's great. You have to stake more SPS to earn SPS faster. And then in the new guild buildings, we're saying, oh, you'd like all these benefits. That's great. We want to support that. In order to earn more and faster, or to get better discounts or better rewards, you need to be staking a variety of assets, not just SPS. So it seems like we're applying this one standard concept across multiple parts of the game, which is now that more aspects of the game are built, we can adjust this so that there's staking requirements across the board. Does that sound right? Is that like a design philosophy that we're doing, or are these really just a bunch of random changes that we're tossing at players all at once?
Yeah, it's 100% a design philosophy, and it goes even at a little higher level of it's like long term commitment to the project and to the game, right? So the people, um, you know, we're trying to get out of the whole like play and earn mindset of, what's my ROI every month and how much can I earn back, how quickly can I earn back everything I put in and more, because that's just ultimately like taking out of the system, and the system will collapse, right, if everyone's taking out more than is being put in. So we want people to be able to get out a lot more than they put in, but it has to be over a very reasonable amount of time, and they have to, like years. So by staking these assets, and again, all this stuff is staking, so you're not getting rid of the assets, right? You still have them, but you have to participate and put up, lots of different assets and hold them, and be committed to this game and this project for years ultimately. And then at that point, hopefully, if this works and is successful, the value of those assets, increases, and you can, reap the benefits of your commitment, um, to the game for that period of time.
Another thing that I hear in this is a lot of competitive staking, the part that I like, and I see it most in like the SPS staking for ranked, is that it's not just here is your number. If you reach this number, you are good. I like that whole range. It's like, well, this is roughly the range that you might want to be in. The more that you stake, the better off you'll be, although there's diminishing returns. And the less that you stake, the less you'll earn, although at some point the changes become negligible there. It really puts the onus on the player to stake as much as they want to be progressing as fast as they can, or that they feel like is appropriate for them. And the people that are staking more are the ones that should be earning faster and more rewards, and the people that are staking less of a whole variety of assets, from DEC to SBS to cards to whatever. It just seems like it's now really in the DNA of the game. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And that's, again, at least with SPS, that was kind of the design from the beginning. That's only just now starting to really be implemented. Um, and so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's exciting to me to at least get this finally being implemented, the real use case for SPS.
Yeah, I mean, I own a bunch of SBS, and I hear some players venting, immediately venting, and they're like, "This is too much. I have to get more. I wasn't able to earn all of it as I'm going, and now you want me to have more." Um, and while I'm hearing that passion and that upsetness, there's a part of me that's freaking thrilled, being like, I own a ton of this, and there's lots and lots of people that are going to start needing it. and they're going to want it in droves. And there's a certain amount that they want to maintain the level of awards that they've been earning. But there's also going to be people that are going to get very greedy for this very rapidly because they want more. And that competitive more, fighting each other because there's not enough. And literally with this system, you can really start pointing to it and say, there's not enough for every player to earn as much as they want, as fast as they want. It starts looking rather competitive. And I get very excited about that as a large holder of SPS. I feel like, wow, everybody's going to need a lot of this. I sure am glad I've been staking everything I've been getting, for maybe not everything I've gotten, but the vast majority of this, I've been staking it for since July of 2021. Seeing all this utility come in, that's really exciting to me. You know, this has been a missing component of our ecosystem of like, well, what forces me to do this? Why would I want to do this? And I actually feel like you came up with a really nice balance of, well, you're not forced to do this. You know, you won't get as much rewards if you don't stake as much as you can, but that's up to every man and woman to decide for themselves what level of commitment that they're comfortable with. Does that resonate? Does that sound right? Should I be thinking about that differently?
Yeah, I mean, it's right. It's not like we don't want anybody to like. We're not saying you have to stake any amount of SPS or ever. Like we're not. Um, it's not our goal to say like anyone has to do anything. It's just simply to build a system with sustainable tokenomics, where people who do participate in the system will benefit from their participation over the long term, right? And if you don't feel that that's the case, then don't participate in the system, and that's fine. But yeah, that's the only thing I really think about. It's like, you know, we have to have utility for the tokens, right? There has to be you can't give out stuff with real value without people putting up real value, and the whole idea is like staking that value, not spending it, right? And that's how rewards can come sustainably over longer term. And so that's what we're trying to build, and this is a key part of that.
Yeah. Well, I think we've dropped enough alpha into the group for the next month or so, while everybody's complaining or fighting or arguing or loving or hating or whatever, all the different ways that this is going. I guess, do you have a thought of when you think the next post or maybe white paper, depending on how you want to look at it, for guilds is going to be around? It seemed like the SPS staking one wasn't too long from the world. Do you have a thought as to when you think the guilds paper might be available?
I mean, it should also be a similar time frame. You know, I had an original design. We had a lot of meetings with a bunch of different people internally who bring up a different viewpoints and different ideas. So that rejiggers everything a bunch, and we're just trying to shake it all out to the final things and make sure everything works together. It's hard to say it's really hard to say with these design things how long it's going to take, because honestly, I just wait and I talk to people and I think until however long it takes to come up with something that I think is good and I think makes sense and is not overly complicated and all fits together. Also, not just with itself, but like everything we're doing in the game. So when I think about what we're doing for guilds, like we've been thinking about this for a while, and a lot of the stuff I had kind of doesn't make sense anymore, because now I'm like, oh, with land 1.5, you know, we were going to have a lot of card staking requirements in guilds. Like you could also stake cards into guilds. But I was like, you know what? You know, there's already so much required of card staking in land 1.5 that, you know, it's going to be like most people are probably going to do that, and there's going to be no cards staked into guilds, or no good cards staked into guilds. So it's kind of like not even worth it. So you have to think about the whole system. And now, like with SPS being required in significant amounts for ranked battles, it's like, well, how much really can we, you know, also ask for guilds? So it's trying to factor in the entire thing, everything we're planning to do in the future, and kind of build out, like Agrod said, like one common plan across everything. So it just I those are the type of things I can't say how long it takes, but we just keep working on them and keep getting feedback and refining the design. until you get to a point where you're like, there, it's kind of like a feeling. You just know when like everything's done and the pieces are in place and it makes sense and it's good. And I feel like we're pretty close to that at this point with guilds.
Matt, do you have any more of that table that you want to share? I guess one of the things that I've seen here was like, well, that's the amount of rewards for today. What if I want to double them, or how much less could it be for me to get half? And I guess
Yeah, that needs the formula with the curve, which I don't have in like a displayable format.
All right, so
Yeah,
we'll
but
come
it's
back
something
to that.
I should be able to share maybe separately outside of the town hall.
And then we've been sharing. We talked about going back to the SPS staking rewards for a second. This was in regards to how much SPS you have to stake to get the maximum amount of SPS rewards. I think
It's
is
not
this
the
going to be?
maximum amount; it'd be the current amount of reward shares.
Sorry, but it's like, but for the R shares, is that how is that going to impact like the number of other things that I'm earning, the potions, the cards, the all of that? How does my SPS staking impact the rewards that aren't simply, ranked SPS rewards for battling?
Yeah, well, since it affects our shares, the reward shares or reward points, it would affect everything. So you would get fewer loot chests, which would have fewer of all the rewards in them. It may be, we could look at possibly splitting that out. It may be a little difficult because some of the reward chests also have SPS in them. The splitting that out. But I also like at a high level, again, it's the same concept of, if you want to earn rewards, not just SPS rewards, if you want to earn cards, if you want to earn potions, if you want to earn merits, if you want to earn anything in the game, it's important to also commit resources to the game for the long term. And that's what we really want to encourage. So I don't think it would be a great idea to make a situation where like a lot of people are like, I don't really care about the SPS. I can still earn all the other rewards. So I'm just going to play and not bother with SPS at all. I don't think that would be beneficial to the SPS community as a whole, which is what this is all about. It's not about has nothing to do with Splinterland company revenue or anything like that. But again, I'd be very open to any governance proposals. Like this really shouldn't be just like me deciding. I mean, I'm gonna put up what I think is the best way to move forward with input from all the other team members and from people outside the team also. And that's what we'll plan to go with. But if the community really feels strongly otherwise about any particular detail, I mean, that's really where the proposal system comes into play. So feel free to propose any differences if you think that they're good.
Yeah. All right, Matt, I want to hop over to Weirdbeard, but thank you for sharing this. I know that this is something that the player community has wanted for a long time. I know that there's some people that are nervous about the numbers that we shared. As a large holder of SPS, I'm freaking thrilled. I think this is amazing, and I can't wait for everybody and their mother to have to start staking SPS. I also really like that there's not like one amount, but that there's a whole range, and that if people are feeling greedy for SPS because everybody needs to stake it, you can get more and more than what your current cards might allow you to earn. And, for those of you that were like, hey, I'm going to sell my SPS, it's been going down, you could hold on to it and rent it. There's plenty of other people that are going to need that SPS and try to earn as much as they can. I think this thing is pretty exciting. And for the folks that understand math and understand that there's a real value to staking assets, I think it's going to be amazing. So thanks for putting your time into this. Thanks for helping to design it. And let's see how it settles in with the community over the next, month or two. And hopefully we'll see the full posts and the full explanations and the full curves and all the guild buildings. And we're gonna get this thing to the next level. Thank you, Matt.
See ya.
All right, Weirdbeard, we're gonna go into Brawlhalla next. This one might be a little bit rough to follow. Any first thoughts you want to share, or any kind of like, I don't know, what's on your brain? And we can have. I know you got some agenda items, but What's your first pass hearing from Matt here?
I mean, my big thing is just making sure that we're always finding ways to make it so that new players are able to get in and understand it, right? So as long as Matt is doing the developing and figuring out how to make the wheels turn, I guess, on the bus, my job is to understand, hey, what do we have to do to make sure that when people come in, they get it, right? We can't have it to where we do these really complex deep systems that benefit the market and set us up for economic like growth, while also struggling to make sure that we're communicating it properly, right? Like part of that is getting creative on the same team and making sure creative team has lead time so we don't just dump changes on players without again, setting it up. A lot of it's just setup, right? Part of one of the things that we struggle with in the past has been making changes and then players sort of struggling to know, okay, what do I need? Where do I need to go? And they'll find information like on Discord or third party websites. We need to make sure that we include those things in our game and that we're doing everything we can to make sure that our players are ready for, massive changes like this.
Okay. So you had some things that you wanted to share today, or I think were on your list. What are the topics du jour for today?
I mean, the big things is just talking about some of the work that we've been doing behind the scenes to make sure that we get the company on track for what we're doing in this upcoming quarter. I think it's an important quarter of delivery. We've talked about getting it delivered for a while now. But all the things that come along with that is not just putting something out in the world. It's also making sure that we're planning ahead and reassuring our community that even though there's lots of things that will be released, that they're not going to be a whole bunch of things with no support, right? Like we have to put it out in the world and then still plan to be able to support it and give it the love, care, and attention that it all sort of needs at the same time.
Yeah, we have 9 days until our company goes into planning mode. And honestly, the leadership team has been in planning mode, for the last week and a half beyond that. But the whole company dives into it in what we call the crucible of fire on the 24th and 25th. How are you feeling kind of diving into that, of like what your priorities are, what you want to be working on? Do you feel like the support team and the creative team are ready for you? Are there things that you want to share about that today, or are we going to wait until after the crucible? Like how are you feeling kind of going into next week, knowing that we have this entire company-wide planning that we got to get into? And how comfortable are you with your plan and what you want to do, and what parts of that are you ready to share?
I mean, my plan is ambitious and it's a lot. But I think it's stuff that we need to get done. We need to get these like forever projects just out in the world. They have to be birthed, right? I think making sure that one of the other main things that we've been doing is trying to get it so that it's not like what we would do in the previous times is that people would be handed a project, they'd work, and as soon as they'd finish, they'd be like, okay, what do we do next? And then everybody would find out sort of at the same time, here's the thing that we're doing next. Break, go. And that doesn't bode well for planning ahead and people, who either get ahead or maybe they're a little bit behind and not understanding like, hey, if you're 2 weeks behind, this is everything that you're causing to sort of be like pushed back and what it's affecting and not just amongst Splinterlands, right? Like there are so many plates in the air between Splinterlands, between goals, between Arcade Colony, between outside partnerships, between like all those things. And we all like are one company. We may have different groups internally within the company, but there's a lot of things that like depend on each other and sort of what happens with that. So making sure that everybody gets on the same page and is able to look farther down the road is big. It's really important, and it also helps us ensure that we're delivering quality products and not, um, having to run a fire drill every single time a new thing is added.
Yeah, I mean, that really has been the focus of my last week and a half or 2 weeks. Is like, well, the crucible is coming up at the end of the month, and I really want people deciding how are we going to build this rather than what are we going to build.
Mhm.
Because like that planning time, that's not the most useful aspect of everybody in the company, because not everybody in the company has to decide what are we doing next, but they are the ones that have to decide how do we do it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Your plan, I think, is ambitious, right? Like, and I'm pushing the company to be like that. I don't know that we're going to be like that forever, but it's really important to me that we get land out, and then once land is out, we can take a little bit more of a breather. But until then, it's sort of like if we make it by the skin of our teeth, that's where we want to be for this kind of next planning cycle. After this one, I hope that it can be a little bit more relaxed, just because I think it's so critical to this ecosystem to get land out, to get all this staking out, to get DEC staking and monster staking and card staking, and now with the guild building, some voucher staking and card pack staking, like literally all these different assets being staked are going to have utility. And hopefully by the time that we're like, I don't know, it's 10 weeks from next Wednesday. So that's like all of June, July, and half of August. By like the beginning of summer, or I guess this is not the beginning of summer, but by middle of August, you should be looking around as a player being like, I saw all of these assets and they were readily available and everybody was happy to sell them. Now everybody and their mother are staking these things and I can't find them. And I have to push and shove, and it's rough for me. And that to me is a system that I want to be in. I don't want to be in the system where there's abundance of everything, cards and vouchers and card packs and all the other things. I want it so that players have to push and shove for them. And I think by the time that we roll around to August, it's going to be a lot clearer that you can't find that thing anymore. And,
Yeah.
and if you could, it suddenly gets a lot. You got to push and shove a lot harder than you did back today.
Yeah, and I think we talk about a lot about assets and things in game and cards and all that kind of stuff. We're also paying attention to like the underlying game mechanics too, right? One of the big main pieces that we're working on in this upcoming quarter is porting over all of the battle systems into VNext, our updated system, right? And the reason for that is so that we can start moving towards better battle engine, battles 2.0, all kinds of things that are relating to getting things on that new engine that also include a better mobile experience, right? Like,
yeah, that's the one that I know people are waiting for.
yeah,
Just freaking the mobile experience, right? Everybody wants us to have a good mobile. Well, the thing that's limiting that is this are updating the battles to the sort of VNext experience, and that's what's happening this quarter. So like somebody was just like, they loaded up the salt cannon and they fired in my direction. Why don't you guys do anything for the mobile app? And I'm like, well, we've been doing all the things for the mobile app. It's been about a year now that we've been working on like kind of the new back end so that we can support mobile development easily. But that's coming. And this is sort of the last big one that we got to do before we have some chance to kind of like start switching over to a better mobile experience. So, it's not tomorrow. We still have like a whole nother PI plan, like mid-August until that's done. But maybe in the next PI plan, we can actually devote some resources to making a kick-ass mobile and having it like working for the phone in a way that we don't have to. So much of what we've been doing is like coding, recoding, and we don't want to have to do that indefinitely. If we can get everything into the modern tech language and then start deploying, it all should be so much easier, especially for mobile.
yeah, and it's like it's always shades of gray between asset value and gameplay, chicken and egg, which makes players come. You have to do a little bit of both. And I think that the upcoming plan that we have for the next PI is going to service both sides of that argument, like really making sure that we're taking care of all assets and all aspects of the game at the same time. Really that VNext update for battles is going to be massive because that's the thing that's limiting having battles that have player player interaction. You have choices to be able to make it. It allows us to expand the way that the game currently plays out. It allows us to make the game the battles look better. It makes us be able to do all these other things. And it's just been a lot of eating your veggies, like to be able to do new player tutorials that we want to be able to do and build this tutorial builder system that we have in mind. We have to port over all the stuff into VNext for battles. Otherwise, we're doing it twice, which is a pain in the ass and a waste of time. So, like we do this and we're sort of freed up to be able to go, okay, what do we want to do with battles next? How do we want to make the game look better and do all these different areas now that we have card collection and we have the markets and we have battles and we have guilds all ported over to VNext. So that's really important, I think.
What are the other big ones? We're still going to have to, is guilds ported? Is tournaments ported? Or those are still big projects to be done?
Still big projects to be done. Tournaments we have in mind for the league locks if we're able to nail down exactly what we're doing with those. It could be done in conjunction while porting it over because we have different people that do like front end and back end dev, obviously, on that. But guilds and tournaments are the sort of outstanding outliers. But if we can do the battle screen and the battle history, then tournaments technically is like just the tournament area and the way that you interact with tournaments and not the way that tournaments play out. So you're almost doing like half of the work. Yeah, exactly.
Same for guilds, right? Like, the guild brawl is sort of like a tournament, is sort of like a bunch of ranked battles. So when we're doing the battle system, it means that half the work is already done for the brawl system too. So like this is a big one to go knock out in this next quarter. And I know that everybody's going to say, you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. And then we'll get it done. And suddenly there'll be a mobile app and they'll be like, where did that come from? Why? How did that just randomly appear? And it'll be like, no. This is what we've been doing for the last year and a half of like really trying to get everything into the modern framework so that we can just shoot it out and have it work and not have to code everything 3 or 4 times. Just have one stinking code base. And it's taken forever to get here. But now that we're not quite there yet, the battles is another huge one, and it's going to take us a couple months. But once that's done, it just frees it so that we don't have to code 3 mobile apps, one before, one during, one after, and I don't know. It should just make this whole experience so much easier and better.
Yeah, I mean, like again, a lot of the things that we're doing now is chewing through tech debt. Like it's just a fact of reality of where we're at is that we've sort of done we've had the mantra of MVP, get stuff out, get stuff out, get stuff out. And, hopefully internally we can sort of start buttoning up the edges of things and making projects that don't last 8 months to be able to do. We can do them in 2 months to allow us to do less to do more, really, and being focused on stuff like that. And it also, we didn't even talk about some of the other things that are going in, like proposal just passed to have no bots in modern. We have to figure out how do we implement that? How do we go about making that happen? How do we, all the edge cases that sort of exist with that? We have other things that are going on like validators. We have work going on validators and having our European counterpart who went away for a 5-6 week vacation coming back, who is handling that to be able to, get those on and up and running. So I don't know. I feel anxious because it's a lot, but it's a good anxious in that it's like what we need to do. And if we get 80% of the stuff on it done, and then the other 20% comes, delayed 2 weeks, 4 weeks, then so be it. Like that's not terrible for what we're trying to do. Like Splinterlands is really weird in that we always set really ambitious goals and deadlines when you look at some of these other gaming companies and they'll be like, oh yeah, we release once every 6 months. And it's like, we're releasing every week, dude. Like there's stuff always coming out that we are always trying to get out there and change and update and redo. So yeah, like I think being able to loosen up and start trying to focus on these instead of every single week, little, tiddlywinks here and there type stuff, we do, hey, once a month, once every other month, we're releasing these big chonky boy packages that have major overhauls to like guilds or a new game mode or, validators or whatever it is, getting stuff out like that. That's clean, polished, and put together from front to back. I think that's going to be really beneficial long term.
So you talked about one of the things that you're planning on. Do you want to release any alpha on the other things? So we talked about the VNext for the battle system. Anything else that you want to kind of put on people's radar so that they have some expectation of what's coming? I guess we should say the next age is obviously going to be all about delivering land. Like that hasn't changed as a priority. The hope is still to get that. You want to put a timeline of when you think that land will be coming out?
No timelines. We just talk about what we're going to be doing. Here's the list of things that we're doing so that nobody can be like, oh, well, you said June 3rd and it's actually June 6th. Where is it now? I'm doing that. I like doing the same voice.
Yeah, we got to get different voices. We all get our own voice for the angry player.
All right, so it's Land 1.5, Validators, Tower Defense release, GLX release, which is something that even if I'm not a part of, I need to keep in mind because you want to make sure that Goals is launched successfully and people are really excited about it. All right, we're slating to do a new game mode, and we're looking at tackling it in the upcoming age. It may roll over a little bit depending on how we're doing it, but the best part about it is that we are going to be sticking our entire team of devs onto this game mode. And the entire point of it is that we release the most polished, extra enticing game mode that it is awesome for not only experienced players, but new players as well to be able to jump right in and be able to play the game they want to. And it's going to involve drafting. And I think that's something that the community for a long time has been dying to talk about and want to be able to see in the game.
What is a drafting tournament, or what is a drafting game mode?
Well, it's not a tournament. So a drafting mode, like if you were to go to something like Magic, right? The way they do it in Magic is everybody gets packs. They open up a card pack. They take one card and they pass it to somebody on their right or their left, and they go around. And it's essentially like you don't get to come with your pre-selected set and go, oh, look, I have the I win card deck. Looks like I win. You're forced to make imperfect decisions in the way that you build, your strategy of how you're going to go forward. We're not doing it obviously like that. It's not a draft pool. It's our own kind of take on how we're doing that. But I think that more than anything, it's a way to entice players who are either maybe you're maxed out, maybe you play in, champ and you just are tired of having all the cards to pick from, or maybe you're in bronze and you have no cards to pick from. Being able to interact and play with different forms of the game, I think is interesting long term. And it's again put in context of we're still delivering all of these other non-gameplay things, right? Like Validator, super, super important. It's so important to be able to get that Land 1.5 out. Those they have things to do with gameplay, but it's not like a direct one-to-one. That Land is not just a gameplay item, right? Like it involves raising asset values. It involves, staking cards and DEC syncs and all sorts of things like that. But I think that again, trying to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that is going to lead to a lot of really strong reaction from the community. And part of the other thing too is that by being able to go out and do a new game mode, it allows us an opportunity to do hardcore heavy marketing and not just like, hey, everybody come check out this game. Like when you do really solid marketing, you have to market around a big ticket item. Land, unfortunately, is like a more insular thing. It's hard to market because you have to already know what Splinterlands is. You have to already own land. You have to know how you can come and get involved. Like there's too many, sort of gates to jump over. But when we're talking marketing, hey, a new game mode that you can just, hey, everybody come check out this brand new thing that we release a trailer on, and we're going to go and do YouTube ads and TikTok ads and get influencers to be able to come and play it on stream and do these different things. That's going to really allow us to do a solid marketing plan that entices people to come and check out one thing, and then they go, oh, what's this Land thing everybody keeps talking about? Some of the other things that we also have on the docket for this upcoming age, the delivery of guild points that Matt talked about before, replacing CP with SPS staking, a 5-year anniversary event that will eventually be releasing some more details for that I think a lot of people are going to be excited to burn, baby burn. And again, like you put it in context, that's so much stuff. It's so many things that we're attempting to get in there and really get done. I hope we're able to get people excited and hope to, have people understand that, hey, if you're a gameplay only person, we got a little bit of something over here for you. You're somebody who's, I only want to talk about assets, I want to talk about appreciation of stuff. Hey, we got other stuff over here. Hey, you want to talk about land and economy stuff? We have something totally over here for you too. It's like super serving our community as a whole and meeting them where they're at, instead of just being like, this is the only kind of community member that we're looking for. We want everybody to join the game, so we have to be providing stuff for everybody here.
All right. Well, thank you, Weirdbeard. I gotta hop. Is there anything else you want to add, or any other public service announcements?
No, thanks for hanging out with us.
All right, awesome. Let's go head over to Splinterlands TV. We're gonna have to wrap this one up pretty quickly here, but then and we'll try to go answer maybe a couple minutes of the questions that we have from the audience. It was only one page, so we can get through that pretty quickly. And then I think there's going to be some time as people try to figure out what questions that they have. Hey, Ron, how you doing?
You think we might go over a little bit today?
Well, I don't know.
We'll play it by ear.
We'll play it by ear. All right, let me do these shout outs, because I see Bootops is in here a billion times, and Bronco NR is in here a couple billion times.
You got a few shout outs today.
Yeah, we got Bang Smith, we got Butt Ups, Ruse Did Nothing Wrong, Jobby Saints, Dr. Calabacan, Sliffer, Aslo, Carls, Larkin 36, Solving Chaos, Crazy Jets, Cray Mundre, Big Barger, Craig Mundre again and again, because Craig Mundre is back in there. We got ourselves Akira, Onez, Bootops, Captain John Parakeet, Bubba Fett, Big Barger, Yummy Tea, Kudasai, and then Thunderstruck and Hala Vodka. But the winner of the most shout outs out of all the shout outs, Bronco NR. So that's a lot of people watching a lot of Splinterlands TV. I mean, I don't know that you guys get this, but that it's a lot of, it's like many hours of watching for each one of those. And so for the guys like Bronco and Bootops that are here with a lot of frequency, they're just watching hours and hours of Splinterlands TV. So thanks for helping to build that community over there, guys.
Absolutely. We love our audience, and hopefully my echo is fixed. I believe it is, but yeah, we don't have much time here, so I figure we'll just get right into it. You want to do the clip of the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. So this one right here, this is like one of those situations that Splinterlands players find themselves in quite often. You never know what's going to happen, and sometimes you assume that you're going to win, and then you start thinking, wait, am I going to win?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh my God! 9, 10, 11. Oh! 12, 13, 14, 14. Even you got last stand, 16, 17, 18. Nice one. 18. Holy shucks.
Holy shucks is right.
That's a lot of misses. That would drive me nuts.
Yes. So anyway, that was our winner for clip of the week this week. Winners, both the streamer and the person who submitted the clip, are getting 500 SPS apiece. And as you might have heard earlier in this talk, SPS is starting to be needed for other things rather than just staking rewards.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the clip of the week for this week. Guys, we're still doing Monster Mayhem. Tons of great cards will be given out. I think that if I haven't watched it yet, but I think that just like during my prep for Town Hall, a kitty was given out.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Nice
yeah,
haul.
Guys, listen, it's absolute mayhem going on Splinterlands TV.
I see what you did there, Ron. I see what you did.
But I know we got to get to these questions. I know there's going to be tons of questions being asked. A lot of people caught by surprise, little bit a little bit caught off guard by that. But anyway, let's go ahead and move right to that. So
Yeah, let's go hop into questions. All right, so there's a canine partnership question. I don't know what this thing is. It seems like somebody deleted the text accidentally. So if reality can put that back in, great. If not, we'll get to it later. Partnership, what's happening with decks for rental and NFTy Arcade? He gave an entire update. So the short, salty question of did it generate at least 20 new players? The answer is yes. Bots, is there a timeline and expected date, even if just an estimate, for when the no bots and modern goes into effect? Is Weirdbeard still here?
Yes.
Do you want to respond to that?
I mean, we have to. It's not as easy as just flipping a switch, right? Like we have to think about all the other ways that it affects things. And does that affect modern tournaments? Does that affect just modern ranked play? Does it? You know what I mean? Like there are extra things that go about it. Do we have a timeline yet? No, because it just passed, and we have to. Again, this is not a change to be made suddenly or lightly, right? Like we have to think and use our brains on it. So as soon as we have a timeline, we will share it with the community. There will be a heads up, obviously, beforehand, but we're digging into it now.
And similarly, what are the consequences for the bots caught after the no bots and modern goes into effect? Do they just gain no rating or rewards or enable the queue, or what? Do we know what will happen to them yet, or is that still in the works?
This is part of what we're having to figure out with what's going on with it, right? Like again, passing. Not that I want to say passing that SPS proposal was easy, because there was like bloodshed on both sides, it felt like. But now that it's passed, that what we're tasked with having to come up with that. And it can't just be, hey, Matt, go figure it out and come back and tell us in a week, right? Like there's lots of people who are very smart people that are going to have to come in and give opinions and give what we need to do about it. And we're going to have to sort through the internal machinations of it. So TBD. Well, as soon as we have more details surrounding the entire thing, we can share.
At a high level, though, generally, terms of service violations, is the consequences, access is cut off to services that we provide, right? To terms of service. And, so we provide a number of different services, including the ability to buy credits, the ability to use our websites, mobile apps, and various other things. So those are, would be similar consequences for people violating the terms of service in this way.
Chaos Legion, what do you plan to do about the 3 million unopened Chaos Legion packs currently in the market? Why would players buy the new Rebellion packs if they can get cheap Chaos packs at around $1.60? Or are the new Rebellion cards so super strong that they will make Chaos cards worthless? So first off, I am highly, highly, highly against power creep and just putting out like infinitely more powerful cards to force everybody to buy them. So that to me is not a non-starter and not an option. Part of what is going to have to drive people is that and part of why I've pushed back sort of when Rebellion is going to be released is that, as long as we're in the doldrums here, and as long as like SPS is down at 2 cents or whatever, you're right. There's not tons of incentive to do that. But I also don't think that's a permanent condition of this ecosystem. The game didn't suddenly become unplayable or unfun or worthless. The community didn't just immediately crater and die. Like there's still plenty of people here, plenty of people buying, plenty of people playing. And the smart money guys are accumulating, because you have to look at the chart and decide, is this a high price time or a low price time? And if it's a low price time or a high price time, is this a time to be accumulating or a time to be selling? And so if you're here to make a quick buck, this is probably not the best time for you. If you're here to accumulate assets for a game that you think is amazing and has lots of potential over time, then, these are sort of some discount prices that the community is offering you. So I don't want to exacerbate that now by like putting Rebellion out and being like, here's another 15 million packs to buy. I don't think that makes sense. I want to see land go into effect. I want to see cards get staked. I want to see the SBS staking requirements go into effect, and all the players forced to stake some SBS if they want to maximize their rewards. I want to see the guild buildings go into effect and see card packs and vouchers, maybe SBT, maybe other other, I guess SPS was one of them. Like I want to see all this competitive staking go into effect, and then look around and say, okay, well, what's the price of Bitcoin doing? What's the price of SPS doing? How is the size of our ecosystem, and how many cards does it really make sense to put out? So I do think that this year, and I'm thinking more like November or December, we'll get Rebellion out. Maybe it'll be next year. I still see the potential to go do a deal with the movie studio. It has not been solidified. I haven't signed anything, but that's my leading way. I think that would be a very small release, not like 15 million packs, but something small. So I see that as a potential, but you're right. There's a lot of unopened card packs, and I think it's going to take new players coming in and SPS being much more in demand and much more required. And if that all happens as planned, then those 3 million packs should get absorbed pretty quickly. Matt, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Well, I just think it's the question: why would players buy Rebellion packs if there are other packs that are cheaper? I mean, even if they're not stronger, I mean, having once Rebellion comes out, Untamed is going to be out of Modern League. So, I mean, yeah, if you just want to play a Modern League with only the Chaos Legion cards, then yeah, maybe you don't. I mean, you might not want to buy Rebellion packs because the other packs are cheaper, and that's fine. That's not a problem in my opinion. But typically, it's better to have more of the cards. So, players who only have half the cards in Modern League would probably not do as well as players with all the cards in Modern League, even if those cards are not necessarily stronger, just based on the way how Splinterlands works. So I feel like that's the main reason why people would buy Rebellion packs, because they would want to have those newer, different cards in Modern and in Wild.
Here's some suggestions and feedbacks. Are you 100% sure you want to use DEC for staking on land? I understand your DEC reasoning, but wouldn't SPS be more suited for the long term? DEC is a proxy for SPS, but it allows us to do something like, we want it to be like $10 a card, not 10 SPS a card, because that could be 6 cents or it could be $6 million. Like the price fluctuates, whereas DEC is meant to be much more stable. So in that case, we don't want a spot where it would cost you $1,000 to stake one card. So using DEC is a good proxy for SPS, but you get a lot more control. And so that's why we did that. Would it be possible to add a timer for when you can purchase energy again? Yes, that's possible. We can add that to the backlog and see where that fits in. Would it be possible?
Should I mention, one thing I didn't mention is we are looking into some changes to the energy system, which shouldn't surprise anyone, because I always say, when we release things, that they're probably not going to be perfect at the first time. So I think one of the things we might look to do is make it so that you can always buy more energy. There's no limit on the amount of energy you can buy, but it just increases in cost for each, certain amount that you buy. And things like that, which isn't specifically related to this question. I think having a timer on those things would be good. But something like every day you can buy a certain amount of energy at this price, and then if you want to buy more, it bumps up to this price and this price. So it kind of covers both worlds, where there are some players who are like, hey, I just want to play a ton, and they just want to get as many reward cards as they can and max out their chests. They can do that. It's just going to cost a little more, versus like other people who are like, oh, I can't play as much as the amount of energy I can get, so it's better to use a bot or something. In this case, hopefully it'll make it where they can play a more reasonable amount at the more reasonable energy costs. So it was just something I forgot to note earlier.
Would it be possible to have all your playable cards in different levels to be available during the lineup phase, or something you want to use at a specific level? Have an additional option that you can filter or sort your collection. For instance, in reverse speed, I would like to use a level 1 Sandworm. In Noxious Fumes, I would like to play a level 1 Martyr card rather than a higher level Martyr card.
It's all part of porting everything over to battles for VNext. Like, until we get all the stuff moved over, we'd have to double up work on expanding things like that. So that's definitely on our radar. It's a feature that's been asked for many, many times, but we have to do the infrastructure first, unfortunately.
Would it be possible to have all the future promo cards to be integrated in the battle pass instead of selling it per BCX? I mean, anything is possible. Cards, reward cards, or promo cards may find their way into the battle pass system. They may not. Battle pass doesn't even exist, so we'll have to pause and see what happens when we get there. And the last pre-built question is, can we earn energy instead of potions, and or as well as in, say, maybe Guild Brawl's first rollout, and then 2.0 energy earned energy crystals could be a new coin and possibly earned in game during battles or in rewards. I think it would be cool.
Yeah, I
Any
think
thoughts of
at the
earning
very
energy?
least, at the very least, something we might look at with some of the new guild buildings or like leaderboard rewards could be like you get cheaper energy or it regenerates faster or things like that. So that's a reward we can incorporate into other areas, which I think would be cool.
Yeah. All right, that's actually all the questions that we had. Matt, while we have you here, do you want to stick around and do any more questions? I got a hard
fine.
stop at 3:30, but I figure players might have some extra questions. So if that works for you, Ron, does that work for you? All right. So hearing yes from Ron, we're gonna extend this out. We're gonna answer some questions. I'd like to be done in maybe 15 minutes because I do need to prep for the call afterwards. So can we get the rule or the new question there? I can see Reality typing. After she types, if you guys have some questions you'd like to get in, I can see Nerd Cthulhu here. So let's go start with this one, and hopefully she can get that general thing in. Players are paying as much as 40 DEC per battle for the XBot battle helper. I don't see any anti-bot measures being able to circumvent this. What are Splinterland's thoughts of being a competitor to this and offering match help for a fee and burning this DEC?
I think that sounds awesome. Although, yeah, I mean that could also be a DAO thing, right? The DAO could, there could be a proposal to build something like that the DAO operates and the DEC is burned or goes to the DAO. I mean, for stuff like that, where anything where it doesn't require Splinterlands to do it, we're already pretty swamped with stuff. So, this is an opportunity I see for the community to maybe step in and help.
Beard, anything you want to add?
I mean, again, like if you add that, we take away something else that we're planning on doing because there's not enough hours in the day to be able to do all the stuff. So always open to suggestions, but understanding that whenever people ask for one thing, it means one of the other things on our list gets bumped, and that's just something I always like to say publicly.
Intrepid Surfer is asking, when does SPS staking go live? We sort of avoided that, but do you want to give any kind of time frame? Do you want to,
I think I said this by the end of this quarter should be at the latest. I mean, it's on our list of things. We don't have an exact date yet.
Yeah, that'd be the time I'd stick with too. By the end of our next quarter at the latest.
All right. So within the next couple months here, maybe sooner. Hamish John is asking, for Yava, when are you planning the current reward card set? What was your target for how long it should take players at each rating, specifically champ, to achieve a max set of cards?
That is a good question. I'm trying to open up. I had a bunch of spreadsheets on that, which I'm having trouble finding at the moment. But I was thinking, well, it's not just at each league, right? It depends. Some people in champion get max out their chests and some people don't. I'm one of the ones who don't. But yeah, I was targeting for like some of the top players to have it be around 6 months or so to get maxed out at least regular foil cards. I thought that was a decent amount of time. And then for lower leagues and people who play less obviously would take longer. Some of that also changed with the energy system, as I kind of mentioned earlier, is giving out a bit more than we initially planned. But yeah, overall, I think like 6 months at the earliest to max out was what I was looking at. We'll see. It may end up being a little earlier than that, but the goal is that it's, even if you have all maxed out cards, there's still going to be future benefit to getting more of them. So it's not like even though you may not be able to use them right now, it's still going to benefit you down the road to keep collecting those.
All right, Jimmy's asking, will Splinterlands create an in-game toggle or option for an account to advertise they are accepting staked SPS in exchange for reward split? So this goes back to the white paper, right? Like, we're going to go stake on individual players. Can they turn off when they're accepting SPS, or is it they're always going to be accepting it?
Well, I mean, so for right now, we were just hoping to build out the infrastructure needed for staked SPS rental markets. So I think we're going to start simply where it's just like some type of market where people can say, I'm willing to rent out my SPS, and other people say I want to rent SPS, and it can match them up. And we hope to work with third-party markets to be able to create like good and easy user interfaces for that. As we go forward, I would like to get it to a point where we kind of implement the full vision in the white paper, with being able to stake on players. And the white paper isn't exactly a reward split, but it makes it so that, as a staked SPS holder, you would need to stake it on players and able to earn even your return on SPS. But I think we do have mechanisms for reward split in the game currently, so maybe we could implement that into the early rental markets. I don't know. I haven't spent a whole lot of time on that part yet, since we haven't even got the staking stuff done. But ultimately, we're going to see what we can do with the resources we have to get the most usable feature out early on, is the short answer.
Bitcoin Sig is asking, when can we expect the 1.5 white paper? I think he just means when can we expect 1.5 to roll out? Weirdbeard, any answer?
No. June-ish. Maybe into July if everything catches on fire and the hamsters that run our servers croak.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
I'd push it a little
June.
further back than that. 1.5 is really big. If the question is when can we expect the 2.0 white paper, just in case, that's also going to be, at least a few months out.
When can we get an update for Soulkeep? Will it be opening up to more testers soon? Anything you want to add for that, Weirdbeard?
They've actually made a lot of progress over with Soulkeep. We've gotten some updated videos that we're going to be doing some promo marketing around. If we're opening it to new people, we're not sure yet if more people are going to be able to get into that beta, but we would like to be able to get more eyes on it in the near future, and that is something we're looking at.
Okay. Dara's got a set of questions, and we're running out of time here, so let's try to answer these a little bit rapid fire.
Yeah.
Question, SPS ranked staking. Why is the average SPS to keep current earnings instead of median? Doesn't being the average net nerf rewards put out? Doesn't being...
I don't understand that one so much. I said I looked at the average SPS that people had staked, and not just the average. But it's a formula based on your rating. So it has nothing to do with averages or medians. It's just a formula based on rating to determine the amount you would need to keep your same rewards.
Why weren't the other assets considered in the formula, even if at a less percent of worth?
Well, because we're planning on using the other assets for all sorts of different things. Obviously, DEC is going to be used for all sorts of things, land majorly, cards, land. We have a bunch of other assets that are going to be used in new guild buildings. And generally, the other assets already have their specific utility. Vouchers also are going to be added to guilds, but they have discounts and things. So really, this was about giving the main utility to SPS, and everything else kind of already has its utility.
Will SPS renting be available before the change as stated happens? And I will say yes. We are not going to introduce SPS ranked requirements without SPS renting. We just did
at some level, like whether it may be available on third-party markets, but at some level it will be available.
Yeah, we just did a poll in Splinterlands TV, and it was 0 and 27 meeting SPS for their current league. Can you share the numbers? I'm sure you have them on how many % of player base meets the requirements per tier in the table.
I don't have those numbers right in front of me. We can look it up. But also there's no requirement, just so everyone's clear. Like I wouldn't look at this from a perspective of before to now. It's just you're going to be at a certain level, and you can get more SPS if you'd like to increase that level. And it was made in such a way that most people would need to increase it, right? We didn't want to come out with a thing and says, okay, everyone already has enough SPS, you don't need to get any more. That was not the point. The point was to say, okay, here's to keep your things at the same level. Most people will need to get more SPS, and if they can, if they want, or they can leave it at a lower level.
Can we have the formula to see how much we individually will receive from having less SPS than the table numbers? And that's what the post is for, right?
Yeah, I just don't have all that ready in a shareable format right now.
Yeah,
But
that's on its way.
it's a curve, right? So it's gonna go up quickly and then level out.
Could certain cards or items like alpha and promo cards be counted towards staking requirements somehow? For instance, maybe a Waka counts as 5K staked SPS if you own the card and aren't renting it out using it on land.
No, you rent it out or use it on land. I mean, where they get, at least alpha cards certainly get big bonuses. So that's the where they're used.
With that reasoning explained about DEC to stake cards on land, why isn't DEC selected as a stake token for ladder tiers? That would set the cost for playing in a league and not have it as a function of SPS value. And thanks for taking more time to answer questions. So
Yeah,
why are
that's actually a really good question, and I went back and forth on that one quite a bit. So first of all, one of the main reasons was, people earn SPS from ranked battles. I mean, that's one of the primary ways of earning SPS. So the idea is that people are saying, oh, if SPS goes up 10x or whatever, then the costs, the dollar value costs, are going to be much higher, and that's true. But also the dollar value of the SPS you earned is going to be higher. So the earning token and the required token are the same. And also, most people have their staked SPS, and we didn't want to say, okay, now, we didn't want to have like a big twist. Hey, we've been talking about everyone needs staked SPS, but now all of a sudden you just need staked DEC instead, and then have everyone have to basically just unstake and sell all their SPS for DEC. So after like going back and forth on it a lot, I think that requiring SPS for the battles is the main way that you can earn SPS makes a lot more sense in this case.
Since validator token buyers are people who believe in the game to the point that they decide to participate in the security of the network, shouldn't those be considered to the SPS staking requirements? Shouldn't those be considered at the current dynamic value of SPS as a way to ensure that people that already took that leap of faith and as an incentive for people to invest in validator nodes could be near their implementation?
Yeah, I think you skipped a question, so we can just jump back after this.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, well, so no, I mean, the whole point, I mean, the validator nodes licenses are a way to earn more staked SPS. So so it does in a way contribute to your staking requirements, because if you have those, you get more SPS.
Have you explored the level of diminishing returns for staking onto a player? Is it capped at the maximum reward level or something else?
Well, for this current iteration, we're not going to have the staking onto a player thing. So you'll be able to you'll be able to delegate SPS or rent SPS out to players, but it's not the full thing in the white paper of picking a player to like stake your SPS onto. But as far as the curve, yeah, we have the formula, which I can try to get together and share later, that shows exactly how the diminishing returns go for each league.
Can we see in the UX the names of the summoner in battle? It would be super helpful. Do you know if that's part of VNext battles?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Just getting the name of the summoner. So if you're using, Kiara, do you get to see Kiara in the battle UX?
That wouldn't be a part of porting it over, because what we're doing is we're just getting all the old code into a new code base. But in Battles 2.0, there's more than you can shake a stick at. So you're just going to have to hang out a little bit longer.
Can SBL partner with Golem to make it an even better game and just hire Yixen? I'm not actually sure how you pronounce that.
Pronounce it.
Things, I mean, lots of different things can happen. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. That seems to require multiple different people's consents and plans. So we'll have to deal with that later. Daniel Williams is asking, after opening a chest after paying 1,000 DEC in champ and getting one common card is ridiculous compared to spamming a lower league for less DEC per energy. Is there anything to be done to make this more viable? Currently, it makes no sense to pay the 500 DEC for the energy in champ unless you're trying for leaderboard. It's extremely demotivating.
Well, see, that's funny because I've had a lot of people tell me that it's like too low and it's like totally worth it, and they buy all the energy they can in Champion League. So I guess it's, those are kind of blanket statements like it is not viable or, or this or that, but people have different goals and different things. So for some people, clearly a lot of people think it's a cheap price and want to buy as much as they can in champ. And some people don't. So it's, everyone can kind of go do their thing. If you don't think that's worthwhile and you'd rather play in lower leagues, you can do that.
Denvik is asking, a few days before today's SBS staking announcement, some major asset holders started to liquidate their collections and buy SBS. Was it an internal leak or so just a selected few got a head start? I would guess no. I don't know of anybody that has reached out to me, or I haven't heard anything in any Discord, any complaints that anybody had a head start. I don't think that anything other than this town hall has been reported. What I think, if I had to guess, we hit like an 18-month low in price, and some of the whales finally said enough is enough. We're stacking here.
Yeah.
Obviously, if anyone internally, if we find out anyone internally has insider information and goes and acts on that, like that's a big problem, and we would deal with that. But this, I don't know if this happened or it was just what Aggie was saying. But either way, I think SPS is still down, so they didn't really get any head start in this case.
So one thing I would like to add to that is these are a couple of streamers they're talking about, I believe. If they're talking about Dwayne Cunningham, Infidel, and Jim Morgan, that's, they actually explained it pretty well in their videos if you go watch it, about the reasonings why for doing this and all that stuff. So, yeah, I don't think this was an internal leak. I think this was just them looking at the market, seeing the lay of the land, and doing what they thought was in their best interest.
Yeah, and anyways, my thought to you guys is you're gonna want more cards, more DEC, more SPS. Maybe you're sick of hearing that, but the reality is there's literally not enough for everybody to have all the things that they want. Maybe price dips down another 100x and everything is terrible and gloomy and disastrous, and that may be the case, but generally you might want to consider, does this look like it's the bottom of the chart or the top of the chart? If it's the top of the chart or the bottom of the chart, should you be accumulating or selling? And those are just some basics of what I at least consider, or what I think through, and what maybe you might want to keep in mind as well. But for the holders of SBS, today should be a glorious day. Everybody that wants to earn SBS is going to require SBS. It seems like a lot of players are not going to have enough to maximize their rewards, especially because it's a range and a scale, and that the answer is you always want more if you want to earn more. And if you are a SBS holder, hopefully this is a day that you are thrilled. So anyways, lots of changes today. It's always exciting bringing Matt on. Lots of, us just working to continue to fulfill the promises that we've made, the builds that we have been working on, new tool sets. You can see that we're hopefully in this next like PI quarter, or this next age, we're taking a big chunk at trying to get mobile and the next version of battles. That's going to be a big one to finally knock off the list, because it really starts unlocking so much more that we can do. It paves the way for Battles 2.0. So I know you guys want this stuff done instantly, but some of these, like when we build these programs, if you were to like print them out, they might be as big as, say, War and Peace, just with how much code has been written. And you just can't do that in like a day and a half. I know somebody out there is like, why don't you just make ChatGPT do it and run the whole thing through that and you'll be done? And that's just not how these things work. You know, you need to get real people to go investigate real code because there's literally hundreds of millions of dollars worth of value on the line, and we have to make sure that we do this thing right. So we're doing the best we can to move through the various products and pieces that we're trying to get built. We're trying to improve the gameplay, improve the economics, improve the community, and there's a lot here, a lot to digest. And I look forward to seeing you guys have constructive conversations about these things. And more than anything, I hope you know you're never going to own enough SBS, and you should probably push and shove if you're hoping to maximize your rewards. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time. Thanks for staying with us a little bit extra, and I hope you all have a splendid day.
When chaos reigns and hope is lost, when your darkest days aren't saved by the dawn, we bring the light to help guide the way. We are with you. We are the Rift Watchers. When your enemies have spread far and wide, when you're out of places to run and hide, follow the runes, help is on the way, we stand with you. We are the Rift Watchers. Reigns and hope is lost, when your darkest days aren't saved by the dawn, we bring the light to help guide the way. We are with you.